And hey, it's Charles McFall with the EMS Underground for Georgia Institute of EMS. I am, of course, trying to get it up on my phone here so I can see it. And I do see it. Let me make sure I've got my phone turned down so we get this done. And hey, you know how this goes. This is Ask a Paramedic Anything. Now, technically, I am a former paramedic, but I will be getting my numbers back soon. So we're going to talk about that a little bit. I hope to have a friend of mine, Travis Jones, on today. He's been on before. And hey, this is our 25th broadcast. Check that out. Isn't that awesome? According to Facebook. So thank you. I'm going to hit a like on that. So that's what you do. This is the Facebook. This is the Medium Facebook Live. And here is on our page, Georgia Institute of EMS. So I'm going to need you to chat with me. I'm going to need you to ask your questions. I'm going to need you to come in and see what's going on. So, of course, at the actual institute right now, we're doing a whole lot of remodeling. There's a lot of expansion going on. Tom has got his hands full. A lot of great stuff. He might actually show up in studio at some point here, as things are progressing there. We're building, I believe, he hasn't confirmed it yet, because I know we're expanding. Things have kind of changed. Getting more classrooms, putting in new classes, new certifications that you can get. And so I know Tom's working on that, but hopefully we'll have a studio. I'm hoping that we're building a studio that will be my office / studio, so I can stay set up all the time, and it'll just be really cool. Decorate it with cool stuff. Like I have here in my studio. I've got my little cool sound panels up there. I got a blank space on the wall right there where I can pull in cool little graphics. Like I could put the EMS Underground graphic there like it's a poster. I got my toys behind me, collectibles, whatever you want to do. So I might not be able to see who's watching today. I've got this. I just smashed my keyboard. I got this up on the phone here, so it's not always going to tell me necessarily who is here. But let's see, swipe left. Let's do that. All right, yeah, I've got comments up. So ask me anything. Now, let me tell you a little bit about my journey so far. So, God dang it, I hate autocorrect. Don't you hate autocorrect? And you know what? We're going to talk about when things go wrong today. That's kind of the overall topic today is when things go wrong, when things change. How do you flow with the change? How do you fix things? How do you do that? I hate autocorrect, man. I'm glad there's no autocorrect for life, because I guess it works most of the time, because we only notice when it doesn't work. And if it didn't work ever, nobody would ever use it. So I think it's one of those things where it works some of the time, most of the time maybe. That makes it, when it doesn't work, it gets much, much louder about that. So the only way I'm going to know, really, I think, if you're watching, I see 4 of you are watching, but I need your questions. Give me your thumbs up. Give me your hearts. Give me your ha-ha-has. Anger at autocorrect. Because I was just trying to type "ask me anything," because I always like to make sure I got the chat going, that I've put something in the chat before we get started. And this is a one-on-one. This is less of a produced show. I do many shows. You can see them at charlesmcfall.com. I've been a part of many different productions and different things like that. I work with Metron on Sunday mornings. That's a video. That's a show production, and we put out a podcast with that as well. I host my own shows, but this is us interacting live. I've got the camera. You can see me. I am a showman. I like to show stuff. I'll tell stories, but this is really us interacting back and forth on Facebook and asking those questions. So autocorrect, man. I'm just trying to swipe. I use swipe because it is, once you get used to swipe, it is very tedious to just go, and it's still not as correct. I mean, I still get messed up autocorrect stuff, but I'm trying to type in "ask me anything," and it made it difficult. We have no autocorrect on life, and I think that is a good thing. If you're a paramedic, you're an EMT, and you're going to do the wrong thing, hopefully something will tell you it's wrong, a partner, something, whatever. But if we had autocorrect and it corrects to the wrong thing, how would that look, right? I'm going to stick an IV, and I miss the vein, but it autocorrects, so I stab them in the throat. I mean, it is a messed up thing. And when things go wrong, that is where our training comes in. That is where our practice, that is who we are, shines through. If you panic and that's who you are, maybe you're in the wrong field. And there's plenty of paramedics and EMTs who lock up. there are times when, as a human being, you've had too much. You lock up. You have a brain fart, as we said. In my old age, we said brain farts. But you have that brain, now, not in medical terms, but you have a brain aneurysm, right? In a metaphorical term. Your brain doesn't function. It just, you can't think of that next step, or for a split second, everything freezes. That happens in life, okay? What you do out of that definitely determines the outcome of what's going on and how you are, what you learn from it, how you progress. And that's why we work with partners. Jeremy, I've heard that medics save lives, EMTs save medics. It goes back and forth. I know that's a saying, and it definitely goes back and forth on that. I've always been, okay, so a little bit about me, just shortly about me, is I grew up in the South in a Baptist church, as my dad was the preacher. Lots of issues there. And I really hate dismissive sayings. That's a little personal note. Not that what you're saying is wrong or it's not funny. I get that. But for the longest time, if you'd said that, especially when I was active on the truck and I was very stressed, I would have gone to a long diatribe about how it's teamwork and and I missed the point that it's just a funny little quip. That's all it really is. So if people really talk that way, though, you have an issue. But yes, it is a team, and definitely you work together, medic and EMT. But yeah, when the medic locks up, I've had an EMT throw out suggestions. I'm like, oh yeah, thanks. Absolutely. I've had EMTs that I'm like, why are you not going to paramedic school or something higher? You're so smart. You get it. You're virtually a medic now without the official certification stamp on it. I've definitely worked with EMTs who are just happy being EMTs, who are smarter than some medics I worked with. But when things go wrong, today, getting ready for the show, I was supposed to have Travis Jones, who's a firefighter in Louisville, Kentucky, in the City of Louisville Fire Department. He's been on before. And for whatever reason, we're not communicating. We're not connecting. I'm trying a new way to do Skype. And all of a sudden, my audio box. Now, I have a very expensive studio box. It has tons of ins and outs. It's the heart of my studio. And something's going wrong. My audio's not coming through to the broadcast software. Something's not working right. And I'm checking my connections. And that's what happens when things go wrong. Your brain tends to go, oh, crap. And actually, and I've agreed with Tom that to curtail my language, but I speak like you would expect a medic to speak in the field amongst other medics, right? You say 4-letter words. You say words that some words can only really describe a feeling of what you're talking about, and it goes against certain faiths and it offends certain sensibilities. But for the purpose of these discussions, I've absolutely agreed to phrase it differently. But you go, oh crap, it's wrong. And I'm sitting here at 2:00. I try to get the show started by 2:30. This interaction here. I'm sitting here at 2:00, and my box is going crazy. It's sending me tons of signals it's not supposed to be sending, and it's doing things. It's not picking up my microphone. And that happens on the ambulance, right? That happens on the ambulance where all of a sudden your piece of gear, your heart monitor may be haywires, or you're in a thought process of this patient is dealing with breathing difficulties, and you start going down the algorithm, right? You start make sure the airway is clear. These are old algorithms. Now, for a little asterisk side note, if you haven't caught this interaction before today, I am actually going back through the paramedic recertification process with Tom. And that's going to be starting mid-February. I'm going to show you the dates on the recertifications and those kind of things. And I'm going to challenge the test, and I'm going to get my numbers back to officially then go on to get my paramedic instructor certification. And I'll be teaching, we hope to be teaching a paramedic course at Georgia Institute of EMS, and I'll be helping with that. I'll definitely be teaching with the EMT classes and those kind of things. And I'll be still doing this every Thursday, maybe more, depending on how things grow, to where students, active students and former students, and anybody who's in the field can ask questions, and I can give more textbook answers. Right now, all my answers are going to be from experience and from what I learned, but I'll be able to give more textbook answers and help you out in where you are, hopefully. So, that all being said, when you're thinking about an algorithm, right? You're going, okay, difficulty in breathing, airways clear, they're moving some breaths, what does it sound like, blah, blah, blah. And you push a drug. You get to a point where you're going to push a drug. or you just put on oxygen and all of a sudden something goes south, something goes sideways. That's not supposed to happen. You're in this algorithm. What makes you an EMT, what makes you a medic is your ability to jump out of the algorithm. Otherwise, we'd have robots, right? Robots could do it. I mean, it wouldn't be cost effective yet, but if we could say robots save lives, all of a sudden people would be getting replaced on ambulances because what's the cost of your life worth? People would pay for that type of deal. Insurances would push it. So it's your ability to jump off an algorithm, to think on the fly. So my audio box is going crazy. There's signals. I'm unplugging things. I'm rebooting it. I'm resetting it. I found what I believe to be the problem. And it's all, instead of going, it's crunch time, I'm worried about starting. I'm not connecting with Travis, which obviously I still didn't do, unfortunately, for some reason. I'm not connecting here. Let me fix the problem I can fix. Let me put out this fire. Let me focus on what's important. And that's why we have the ABCs. It is so simple, right? And actually, before the ABCs, it's you. You got to take care of you. If you need to sit and hold for a second and think, do that. Now, if you think for more than 30 seconds and not on the fly, okay, so it's like doing a show. It's doing a show, right? Or speaking or anything. When you're watching somebody speak or something goes wrong and they just pause, it's awkward, right? It's awkward. And the longer it pauses, the more awkward it gets. That's the same thing that happens on the ambulance, is you can take a moment to think, especially if you have a team with you. You've got firefighters working with you. You've got EMTs working with you. Yeah, other medics. I always speak from the medic standpoint because that's my latest experience. But you've got the team working. You can sit back and think for a minute. What else is going on? Why didn't that work? What's happening? Use your instincts, use your gut to try something. And that's what I did here as the show was getting ready to go, and my audio's just not working. Okay, it's feeding the main in and out. Google it real quick. Now, of course, on the ambulance, you don't have many options to Google things, right? Patient's not Google. Hey, Google, patient's not breathing very well. What do I do? That doesn't fly too well. And thank you, Brent. Brent says that they be called robotic ambulance drivers. Man, that burns me. I hate that. I hate that. Some people call you, any level of education, they call you an ambulance driver. No, man. I don't even call volunteers ambulance drivers. And in some services, volunteers can drive the ambulance in. And that's come in, especially in rural areas, that is super helpful because I need my partner in the back with me to help on whatever I need them to help with, especially a code, those kind of things, especially anything that's really emergency related. I'd rather have somebody else drive and have an extra set of eyes, ears, brain, and hands with me. And the brain is very important there. And so I'd have a volunteer drive. Oh man, I hope you guys, it burns you too. I hate when people call anybody ambulance drivers. So robotic ambulance drivers. So you're in the back of the ambulance and things are going wrong. What do? Let's focus. That's why we go ABC. That's why we start with what's going on. What did I do? Did I accidentally forget to attach the oxygen to the thing? Did you forget to turn the oxygen on the actual tank? Because some services, and I know we did this, we turned the tank off after every call in a rural area. We might have done it in the cities as well. I honestly don't remember. I know you did, man. I know. It's good. So, but with the oxygen, I had this happen. You're just flying, right? You go, okay, ABC done, and especially in a code situation, and things are going south. Case in point, I went to a call one night. It was right after midnight. I'd been in bed for maybe an hour. Our shift change was at 6:30 in the morning, which meant I got up at 5 in the morning to get a shower, to wake up, get some coffee. And then to get on the road, the 30 minutes it took me to get to the station, 30 minutes to get to the station, to be changing at 6:30. So I'm exhausted by 8, 9 o'clock, and we'd already run a few calls. We're the busiest truck in the county. This was National EMS, Rockdale County, so I was, remember my call numbers. I think it was 601 is the number there. And I'm pretty sure I was 601. And that's the busiest truck. And so at 10, 8, 9, 10 o'clock after dinner, right, is I would settle in with my laptop or something. I think we had a TV in there. I could watch a little TV and I'd pass out. And then we'd get up for a call. So 11 o'clock at night, I've been in and out of sleep already. So I'm kind of groggy. And we get the tones drop. We're jumping up. And it's a difficulty in breathing. And in this particular case, they had a speakerphone on, right? Because I could hear coughing behind it. I mean, you could hear the coughing. So, okay, we're thinking. And he had just been discharged from the hospital that morning with bronchitis or something. And I don't remember the age of the patient. So we're going to all right, you need to go back to the ER. It didn't fix you, but you have bronchitis. We kind of go, you just seen somebody medically professional, right? So I am leaning on, they've seen the doctor. This is more than likely just an aggravation of the already underlying problem. Fine. So I don't even take the stretcher, right? We take a clipboard and the jump bag. And I'm pretty sure that's what we took. And the firefighters were coming in behind us. They usually got the stretcher for us. So I walk in with a clipboard, and not literally one eye open, but it always feels like one eye open because I'm groggy. And I'm talking to the guy, and he's big, rattle in the chest. He's coughing. His fiance is there. And he's answering some questions like, all right, yeah. I said, they're bringing I'm not delaying you. They're bringing the stretcher. I think I sent my EMT partner to get the oxygen just to help, right? To help relieve what was going on. And as I'm sitting there, and I'm thinking, easy call, right? We're going to put a little oxygen. I'm definitely going to put the monitor. I'm going to do the check boxes I need to do just to be safe. But for the most part, this is going to be an easy, put them on a stretcher, put them in the truck. Let's go back to the ER. We'll get you, they'll do some more advanced things. We'll get you fixed. No problem. And in the midst of this is within less than a minute of walking in the door. Things go wrong. All of a sudden, his eyes get big, and he starts having a seizure. And immediately, my one eye that's closed, obviously not literally, but mentally, opens up and goes, I looked at his fiance and looked at him, looked at his fiance and goes, has he ever done that before? She goes, no. And the OS factor hit in, and that's not operating system. The OS factor hit in. And my firefighters were there with the stuff like, come on, we got to go. And we just scooped him up and we put him on a stretcher. And I never run. Okay, one, I am 6'7" and 340 something pounds. And then I was like 360, 370 pounds. Daddy doesn't run for anything. Two, running equalizes panic to me. And once you've hit that mark, you've lost. You've lost the battle. Three, when you run, you're usually not focused on what you're going to step in or where you're going. You're focused on why you're running, and you don't pay attention. You kind of get that tunnel vision, and you could break your ankle. You could get hurt. Bad things can happen. Running is a bad thing to me. I never run, ever. So, but we did hurry. We did walk as quickly as we could. We went smoothly to the truck, got him on. He was in VFib. No history of heart problems that I can recall now. It's been a long time, and HIPAA and all that jazz. And I try to forget a lot of stuff specific details to calls, because it's not about the specific details. It's about the story and the reaction. So we get him to the truck, put the monitor on. He's in VFib. I can't remember if I did the paddles or the pads. Pads are easy. I think hands-free, the big pads you put on them and hook them up. We had that monitor. Everybody probably does now. I mean, they're fairly new then. I imagine at this point it's probably standard. And did the clear, popped them, got bradycardia back. All right. Holy crap. My first ever and only conversion in the field. And now my brain is scrambled. Everything went wrong, medically speaking. We went in going, it's a bronchitis problem. It's a coughing irritation problem. It turned into a heart attack problem. Got him back. What the hell? And now I'm having to shift gears again to get back to the original problem and see what's going on. I did make a mistake. I don't exactly remember what the mistake was. The mistake I made roughly was I pushed some drug that you don't push with bradycardia. I was still stuck on the heart attack path. And now I didn't do anything ultimately to harm the patient. It was a mistake. I don't know if you call it counseling. I did get talked to about it after the fact. We did a review of the call, and And they said everything. I did everything as well as I could, except for that. But ultimately, it did not lead to the demise of the betterment. It was a neutral mistake. It did not lead to the demise of the patient or the betterment of the patient. But that's the thing. Even then, I mean, I'm shifting gears, and I just didn't shift that third gear, right? So the first gear was breathing problem. Sure, we'll fix it. Oh, crap. Second gear is heart attack. Boom. No more heart attack. Third gear's, and at that point, we're on the way to the hospital, right? The firefighter had jumped in the front. They knew how I like to operate. My whole theory, my personal theory on paramedic medicine, on emergency medicine is let's get them to more help as fast as possible. Can I help them? Absolutely. Am I God? Hell no. Sorry, Tom. But no. With a big capital H, no. Because that's the thing. That's what we do is we stabilize as best as we can and we get them to where intervention can happen. An intervention can be higher level of education. It can be more drugs, surgeries, stuff that we are unable to do in the field. So I even hate to pull the ambulance over unless I absolutely have to. And I did it once. I'll tell that story in a minute. But so the firefighters I worked with regularly, every shift with these guys. It was in our territory together. So they knew, get them in the truck, let's go. My partner knew that too. They were with me and got the rhythm back. And everybody is like, what do we do now? And we did the basic stabilization, right? Oxygen. I considered tubing. I don't believe I had to tube the patient. We were bag valve, mask. We did the BVM for him, right? We mechanically breathed for the patient while I got the pad set up and bam, bam, bam. I mean, all this happened very quickly. And we were around the corner from the hospital. So essentially I pushed one drug, made sure everything was stable, and we were there. Patient ultimately ended up dying. I honestly don't remember from what, but that's my point. When things go wrong, what do you do? How do you shift gears? How do you, that's something that's never, ever, ever, ever taught in school. Now they might say, oh, you switch to this algorithm, you switch to that algorithm, but that's not how it goes in real life. In real life, it's, oh crap, shift. Oh, okay, get that, shift. Okay. And actually most of the time things go in an order. You go to a heart attack, to a patient not breathing. It's pretty much, is it this type of heart attack, this type, or that type? Which drugs do I push? Do I shock? Do I not shock? Bam, 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 bam. Mostly CPR, tube them, breathe for them, do what you can, get them to the hospital, they die. I hate to say that. Actually, I don't hate to say that. That's just a hard truth. Most of the time, emergency medicine is too late. Okay? I've had a few saves in my career that were defined as saves. I forget how they were defined as saves. I only have one patient in my entire career that I personally go, I saved their life. I was part of a team that gave intervention. I was part of a team on many occasions that helped birth babies. That I was a part of a process. But in my career, I've got 9 saves, I want to say. 9 awards. Not all of that was saved. Some of that was birthing babies. But I got 9 awards in my 10-year career. And out of those 9, the one, I can't remember if I got the award for this kid or not, but the one life I changed, I absolutely saved that life. Never got recognized. It actually helped push me out of the field for a long time. It started that path because I will tell it in a minute. Yeah. But I want to talk about things going wrong and shifting gears. Still, most of the time things go correctly. Does that mean you save their life? Has no correlation. No correlation to it at all. You can do everything right, they die. You can do, as Tom likes to say, despite your best efforts, they can live. You can do everything wrong, they can live. Yes, there is some correlation to doing the right things helped curve them into a better direction. Doing the wrong things definitely curve them into the wrong direction. But I got to tell you, most of my codes come out patient not breathing or having a heart attack, those kind of things. So they're already down. And unless you live within a mile of the station, you're going to hit that 6-minute brain death mark before the ambulance can get there. What are you going to do? You do your algorithm. You tube them, you breathe for them, you do the CPR. If you're lucky, you might get something back. For the most part, you never get anything back. That's not what we're here to talk about. I'm just throwing some reality down there. When things go wrong, like with the patient I just told you, it helps to have that team. It helps to be ready to shift gears. And that's what you have to do. Focus on what you can fix. What can I do right now? What is it I can do? And that's where algorithms do make it easy. He's not breathing, put the back valve mask. We're breathing for him now. I don't even think we stuck an IV before I shocked him, because as soon as I put him on the monitor, I might have been paddles, because he's having a heart attack. It's a VFib seizure is what he had, right? So I recognize that. He has no history of seizures. He's never had a seizure. He might have had a history of heart problems. I don't remember, but I do remember clearly seizures, nothing there, nothing. So I may have taken the paddles, because it takes a second, 2 seconds to put the stickers on and put the buttons on. I might have gone straight to the pads. I don't remember which, but the quickest way to look at his heart is what I did, and saw that, hey, this is VFib. I can do something with that. Clear, bam, got him back. So then I had to reset. We're on the way to the hospital. I had to reset. We're still breathing for him. That's what my partner's doing. Now we're probably starting to line. But I had to go, okay, ABCs again. Where are we? What are we doing? How you flow, how you change really becomes part of who you are. You can find out stuff that you didn't know about yourself when you do that, when you hit those situations. But that is exactly what dictates good EMTs and medics versus average versus bad, is how you think on your feet. So the time I did change gears midstream and actually had my partner pull the ambulance over, we were only 5 to 7 minutes away from the hospital. It was a patient that was having difficulty in breathing, and I think they had CHF possibly. And the way CHF truly presents itself is the fluid's backing up their lungs. They have a hard time breathing. They might have a diagnosed history of it, but it's not. Oxygen is not just going to fix it, because they feel like they can't breathe, because partially they can't breathe. There's fluid there instead of oxygen. So we had just gotten Versed protocols for national EMS. And under certain circumstances, you could put a patient down and tube them. This is one of those circumstances. And it is myself and my partner, and we're driving. We're driving to the hospital. And they just keep getting worse and worse. They're panicking. Their oxygen saturation is dropping. So I very quickly called the hospital and said, this is what I want to do. This is our protocol. I'm just clearing it. Since I'd already contacted the hospital, I just wanted to clear it very quickly. Because technically, by protocol, I could just do it. But I, wanted the second opinion very quickly. Said, we're still 5 minutes out. This is the protocol. I'll just make sure you're cool with that. And Doc said, yep, go ahead and do it. And my partner pulled over. Even though we're a few minutes away from the hospital, it was better for the patient's health to shift that gear, because standard gear drive said, hey, we've got oxygen mask on. They're conscious. They're alert. Even though they're panicked, let's get to the hospital where they can do other things to reduce the fluid to help with the heart problem. Because it's really a heart problem presenting as a breathing problem. But I just shifted that gear. Things were going wrong. It didn't feel right. Something was off. The patient was panicking. It was getting worse. Now, I came up with another way to handle that. I'll talk about that in a minute. So I went with the protocol, got the protocol. My partner pulled over to the side of the road, got in the back, because he needed to help me, because you need two people to make sure everything goes right. 'Cause I'm going to be tubing them. So I'm going to want him to do the bag valve mask. We're going to set up a line so I can push the Versed. We had a port, right? We had a INT, right? But we set up a line, hung a bag real quick, got the Versed ready, got the tube. I made sure everything was ready first. And we told her, this is what's going to happen. We're going to give you a drug. You're going to get sleepy. We're going to breathe for you. It's going to feel better. She's, okay, whatever you got to do, That's not mocking. I'm just trying to paint the picture of what's going on. So we did. Pushed to Versed as it kicked in. He took over breathing better with the bag valve mask. Laid her down. Ready. Tube went right in. Perfect. Hooked it up. Everything's right. Check placement. Good. And all of a sudden, her heart rate starts coming down, right? Because CHF, right? Fluid around the heart. Fluid's back up. It's not pumping right. You bring that heart rate up. It's just backing up more fluid. It's missing pumps, if you will. I know this is not technically speaking. I know that anatomic doctors can rip what I'm saying apart. I'm giving you a basic picture. Fluid is not moving out of what it needs to move out of, which is the lungs. The heart is not working well. But in taking over and giving more of that positive pressure that will push the fluid down some, that will open up more channels to get more oxygen in, the heart then relaxed. Plus the Versed helped, right? The Versed kind of went, oh, yeah, I'm good, man. I'll chill out. And it slowed the heart rate down, which made it easier for us to oxygenate the patient. Shifting gears, because it didn't just go wrong. It didn't, what the hell? Sorry, Tom. It didn't feel right. And while I probably could have kept going to the hospital and made it, and they could have intervened, everybody was like, yeah, nope, this is a good thing to do right now. We'll trust you with the information. Yes, that's the protocol. Did it. And the patient had a positive outcome in the end. Shifting gears. It's not always about when things go wrong. It's about being able to think on the fly, being able to be away from complacency, from being relaxed. If we've talked about this before on EMS Underground, and guys, everybody who's watching, questions, throw me questions. I'm on this thing about shifting gears, about what goes wrong, what can go right. Thinking on the fly, that is something that you have to really get your brain around, because it's hard to practice that in school. It's hard to teach that in school. That's what the ride-alongs are for, and maybe you don't get that experience. But if you get in the mindset of, what can I do? What are the possible outcomes? That helps. Wargaming is a term that's used to practice these kind of things. I know in the military and special forces, they do evasion drills. So they will have a person who's a driver, right, who's supposed to be driving somebody to and from places, whatever. And they will run drills of, all of a sudden, out of nowhere, this bomb goes off. What are you doing? All of a sudden, these cars are maneuvering you. How do you maneuver? And they practice that. So when it happens in real life, they're ready for it. We need to do more wargaming as medics and EMTs and firefighters in the field. And no, when I was an active medic, I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to go out and practice because I was tired. I wanted to just do my job and sleep. That's all I wanted to do. But I got to tell you, the better attitude is practicing these things, practicing things going wrong. Tabletop is another thing I love to do, where you sit around a table and it's all papers, but you talk through a call. Okay, here's the call. This is what's happening. And you can actually review real life calls that have happened with the team. No foul, no blame, no harm. It's never used in the sense of, well, Charles did it wrong. I'm Charles, by the way. See, I'm Charles. Charles did it wrong, and this is what he could have done better. No, it's all about, here's the call. What can we do? And maybe it's not even a call your crew ran, your shift ran at all. It's just a call. What do you do? War game it in your head. Tabletop it. Run through it. And as the person who's running the game, shift it up. Say this went wrong. Shift it to a whole different call in a way that can happen. To see how you shift it, you practice shifting gears, because that is so important. Because so many times, and if you're active in the field and watching this, you're hearing my voice, you know you've seen this happen. So many times somebody goes, I can't. And I'm going to tell that story in a minute. It's a story that makes me mad. But I'm going to tell the story in a minute. People freak out. You've seen where all they want to do is hold C-spine. I just got to hold C-spine. Quick story. Ran up as a civilian. As a paramedic, I was off duty. In civilian clothes, right? And so on my own time, I ran up on a motorcycle accident that just happened. And somebody was holding C-spine. And so I came up and, no, I was first. So I held C-spine. That's what it was. The helmet was already off. I didn't touch the helmet, but I was holding C-spine and trying to do an assessment from the head. And a volunteer rolled up and I said, here, take C-spine. Oh, what? Okay. And I said, stop and listen. Put one hand on my hand, put one hand on my own hand. I was like, and now don't move. Okay. But they were doing the freaking out. Why are you a volunteer if you're going to freak the F out, man? That I didn't understand. But I did my assessment. Medics rolled up, gave them a report, done. You've seen that. People can't shift gears. They can't get anything. Some people get into a field, and I'm saying it this way to cover all volunteers, firefighters, EMS, police, all those things. Some people get into a field thinking it's going to be this way. I can handle this thing. Some people might be specialists at delivering babies, but they do really, really bad at an amputation. Some people might be, wrecks are my thing, but they're horrible at heart attacks. And I don't mean in the broad sense. I just mean, I don't mean in the specific sense. I mean in the broad sense. You'll see that. But the person who can shift, the person who can flex and flow, that is the person who will change lives. So that's what I'm talking about today. Is you've seen people when a curveball gets thrown, when something happens, they can't respond. They don't know. They're just on the book in their head. They're just on this is how it's supposed to go. It doesn't work that way. I mean, sometimes it does. I mean, that's the problem. I mean, you can have an entire career that works that way, but when it happens, you're screwed, right? So the call that gets me mad, the one time I actually saved a life, and I believe I shifted gears throughout the whole thing. So my partner and I were in a rural town. We're in Madison. Actually, yeah, I'll just leave it there. We're in a rural area, and we got called to, I can't even remember what the call went out as. I just remember rolling out with my partner, and there's a firefighter. He is a paid firefighter. I'm getting mad. I'm getting mad thinking about this dude. He's got C-spine. Awesome. So it's a kid. It's a teenager. I don't remember the kid's age, but it's between 12 and 16. Teenager. And I don't remember when I found this out, but I'll just go ahead and tell you since I can't remember it necessarily chronologically. But we find out that this Jeep had been coming, a Jeep Grand Cherokee had been coming down the road. By the way, it's a major road right in front of the one paid fire station in the entire county. The firefighter happened to be there on duty, whatever. It happens practically right in front of this fire station. But the Jeep is a major road in the city, and this Jeep was coming. And this kid apparently thought it was going to be funny, according to his friend who was with him, thought it was going to be funny to step out just behind the Jeep, right? So the Jeep's coming. It looks like, I almost got hit, but I didn't. What the kid didn't know was the Jeep was pulling an open trailer behind it. So the second he goes to step out behind the Jeep, this trailer catches him. And I don't know what happened. I mean, flipped him, whatever. Foobarred him. Foobarred him. So he's in a little bit of a pool of blood on the ground. This firefighter's holding C-spine. I'm coming up. Here's the first gear I'm in. I'm coming up, and I'm getting past, oh crap, as a kid, right? Getting past that, finding out what's going on so we can kind of very quickly doing our assessment. But I'm in the mindset of he's got C-spine. He's going to keep C-spine. We get him within 5 to 6 steps. Now I'm a big guy. I can take long steps. So I'm far enough away that I'm not on top of you. And this firefighter goes, I can't, and walks away. Let go of C-spine and walked away. And that person never got fired, never got written up, never got dealt with. I'm angry beyond that, and I'm going to get to that point. But literally lets go and walks away from this patient. Should have been arrested on the spot and thrown in jail and lost everything in his life. So now I'm taking over C-spine, or somebody else. I think I took over C-spine, then another volunteer came up shortly behind me and did it. We're assessing the patient. I mean, multiple injuries, multiple open wounds, broken bones. He's not breathing very well, so we're doing a bag valve mask. We get him in the back of the truck. Call for a helicopter. Call for our backup. Right? There's another truck in the county. The backup literally says, I'm not getting out of bed for this. He's taking a nap in the afternoon. And he said to his partner, I'm not getting up out of bed for this. Because by the time we get there, they'll be done. So the partner, had to fight with him to get him up out of bed to do the right thing. They never showed up in time to do jack. So, of course, it's downtown in this area. Crowds are starting to mask. We got him in the back of the truck and a bag valve masking him. And we're trying to stabilize the blood. We're trying to We're hanging lines. We're managing the airway. We're having to do everything at once, right? There are multiple gears rolling here because school will teach you A, B, C. Oh, you go in, let's manage the airway. Oh, they're not breathing, let's tube them. But real life is you have multiple hands, multiple people, and you have to get things done all at the same time. Because if you're doing CPR on somebody who's gushing blood, all you're doing is pushing blood out the wounds. I honestly cannot remember about the heart, what it was doing. But I know this dude was not breathing. He wasn't conscious. Ultimately, I had to tube him and had some difficulty. And, of course, I am ramped up. My tension and my energy is up here. So everything's either in slow motion or super fast. It's just, it is what one of these calls is you're having to compensate for everything going on in yourself to take care of the patient. And the flight crew got in, and instead of taking over, because I'm like, hey, man, I've tried to tube him once, and I couldn't get it. We're bag valve masking. I'm about to start a second time, but here. And I went to hand the flight medic the thing, and he went, for whatever reason, he goes, no, you got this. And he showed me a new technique. Because my gear was, I'm doing the best I can, and I'm feeling overwhelmed, and I'm pissed at this MFer over here, walked away from the patient, abandoned the patient, took his hands off of C-spine and walked away before anybody could actually transfer control of the C-spine, period. And if I saw this person today, I'd punch him in the damn face. Because this person, we'll get to that, is political based. He worked politics to get to where he was. He thought he was the hot snot to be paid to do what he did. And he always fought us on stuff. And he was a worthless piece of crap who abandoned a life. And I've got no use for him ever again. So, dealing with that emotion, dealing with that anger and that thing, and as a kid, and figuring out what's going on. And honestly, his mom kept trying to come to the back of the ambulance. We had to get people to say, no, you need to stay away. I'm doing the best I can. You have to. We're doing everything. The helicopter's on its way. Luckily, we were we were right next to a place they could land, so we didn't even have to leave the scene. And I don't know how long this took. It felt like days. Right? Time stops, and you're doing this stuff. And the medic gets in. So I'm on that gear of, holy crap. Do you have the bleeding? Yeah, I've got the bleeding control. I've got this line. Okay, I've got the airway. And I'm in charge. I'm the one in charge. This all falls on me. So we're doing the best we can, and I'm dealing with all this stuff, and I couldn't get him tubed. So I'm bag valve mask, making sure to get the oxygen saturation back up to get ready to tube again. The medics come in, and I'm in that gear set of, okay, thank God you're here. You can take over. And the medic was like, no, you got this. And he showed me the technique where I started to, and of course he's very gentle, very kind. He's like, can you see it? It's like, yeah, I kind of see it. And I feel like I'm going, but in reality, I was apparently very calm, very knowing what I was doing. I was like, yeah, I kind of see it. I got it. And he pushed down on the Adam's apple. It was a male patient. On the female, it'd be in the same basic area, but he pushed down on the trachea, and all of a sudden, dink, there it was. Right in. And he goes, I love this. I'll never forget this. Because it made me feel better, and it made me I never laughed out loud, but it can kind of change that mood from, okay, cool. He says, I feel you knocking. Because with your fingers right there, you can also feel the tube going in. And that was reassuring to know it was there. We taped it down. We got good placement. We already had the C-collar and everything on the patient, so they were locked into place. All that jazz. Which, of course, made it more difficult to tube the patient. So that was great. That took this chaotic, so many gears running, so many things changing and happening. What do you do to handle it? Because at the moment, I didn't cuss out the firefighter. I didn't even yell at him. I didn't do anything. I filed it over here to handle later in my brain. I did my job. I did what I was supposed to do. And I saved this kid's life, because had he been left, especially with that jackass firefighter, had he been left there, he would have died. Period. Had we had to take 5 extra minutes to get to him, he would have died. Everything we did saved his life. And the flight crew came in. And then, of course, they do their things and start adding the blood pressure cuff and changing it out and this and that and the other. But the flight medic, really took a moment to to reassure me. It's like, man, you saved this kid's life. You did great. Glad I could help you get the tube. They're very, because it is such an emotional roller coaster, such a stressful thing. And they get out and they take the patient away, and we wrap it up and go away. And of course, being a small town, this makes the newspaper a few days later, like the next day or 2 days later, whatever. And here's what else really pissed me off about it and changing gears. And this was what burned me and started me on the path to get the hell out of the field, because it's so damn political. Now, before I tell you that part, let me put a pin in that and come back. I never, ever, ever signed up to be a medic to get the recognition. I never signed up to be the hero. Maybe a little bit to be the hero, but never the recognition. I've had a couple of calls, a couple of interactions that I've had with patients make the news. It just did. I mean, it's nothing that's newsworthy now. I mean, I dealt with a kid who was rock climbing. He's at a camp, a summer camp, and it's a controlled rock wall climb, and he stopped climbing, just went dead weight. When they lowered him to the ground, he was not breathing. That made the local news. Okay, I'm just talking about stuff like that. And this call definitely made the local news. And what killed me about it is I wrote it up. I wrote up that this firefighter abandoned the patient. I wrote a book on this call, because that's how I do. I document everything. And that's the thing too. The way my brain works, I believe, is different than a lot of other people's. I really take in a whole lot of details about things. And I mean, I wrote down everything about that call. I wrote 5 or 6 pages on this call, on what we did, what we found, what we saw. Pushed to get this dude screwed somehow, to get punished, and nothing ever happened. But on top of that, a few days later, my story's in the paper, right? And I get the newspaper, and the huge photo is right there. And that firefighter is comforting the mom, and he got the effing credit for being the hero of the day, and his pictures on the paper, and they talked to him about what I was nowhere in this report. None of the report was the truth. Not a damn word of it was the truth of what actually happened. We never got a thank you from the family. He did. Because he couldn't do a damn thing to help with his patient. He could comfort the mom when she showed up after we're in there saving this kid's life. Dumbass who thought it'd be funny to step out behind a car, saving his life. He got the thank you from the family. He got the front page. He got all the worldly BS credit for it. And I quit. It wasn't very long after that. I was like, I'm burned out. I'm done. I mean, there was other things that lined up to it. But the political aspect of medicine at the point of life I was in, and that's something that we don't get to teach very often in school. We don't think about it. I wouldn't have thought about it until I told you this story. There's a huge political aspect of emergency medicine. Truth doesn't always matter. If you really think about it, truth never matters, because the way you write the document is how it went. Now, there might be witnesses, there might be other people who tell a different story. That can change how things go. But in the basic premise of things, how you write your report, and you and your partner sign off on it, doctor signs off of it, it's pretty much done. I'll tell you one last story about that. But how you write your report is kind of how it went. You can leave details out. You can add details in. You can be as truthful as you want to be. It comes down to what's written. And that part of the field at the time really, really got to me. I was dealing with a lot of internal baggage. Like I said earlier, I started this whole show off talking about how I grew up in the church, and literally grew up in the church. My dad was a preacher for as long as I can remember, and I had to deal with the politics of that. So I was carrying a big political BS, truth matters burden when this happened. it moved me towards a path I needed to be on. But that's the one time I know I saved this kid's life. And I can't honestly remember if my company gave me a Save Award for it. At some point, I think we missed the deadline to put it in for the Georgia. Georgia State has a Star of Life award that I would have qualified for with this call. And sorry I keep running my nose. It's just a little cool down in my basement studio, and it's making it itch a little bit. But the politics, we go into school with so many ideals. We're so idealistic, and I'm going to learn these things. I'm going to do this stuff. Yeah, but that's only part of it. Okay, yeah, there's darkness. We can't save everybody. Yeah, that's a part of it. Hey, if we focus on the lives, we can change, influence. Man, it's those truly sick calls where they didn't want to call the ambulance because they are the people who never want to abuse the system, but they needed help. And maybe they don't need us to provide intervention. Maybe they just need to ride to the hospital to get intervention. Maybe they just need to be told, no, it's okay. Yeah, you can go in the car. We're more than happy to take you. Always say that. We're more than happy to take you, but you definitely, with XYZ, you can go in the car. It's okay. But definitely please get some help. Let's make sure you get some help. Those are the lives that we change with our interactions. And if we focus on that, yeah, you can have a great positive experience. But that's still idealistic. What we never talk about is the politics of medicine. Tom and I got into it some last week where we talked about, hey, our ideal world at Newton EMS was we run our calls, we keep our brains sharp, we are a team, we do our job. But we were part of this big political structure that's something that happened physically on the other side of the hospital, had nothing to do with us, all of a sudden affected our world in a negative way. Where we had to do this BS crap because this other person thought, well, everybody has to blah, 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 blah. Politics. Politics play into it because humans play into it. The bigger your company gets, the more political it gets because you have a company to run. I saw National EMS actually has expanded into Morrow, Georgia. When I was at National, we had Morgan County, Rockdale County, and they had gotten a non-emergency transport agreement with Walton County Hospital. So we were in Walton, but not as a 911 service, just to handle the transports. I know at one point they tried to get Newton. At one point I tried to help them pick up Jasper County because I felt like they could do a great job, and Jasper County needed it. So they expanded. I know since I left, they got into Athens, which was also Watkinsville, Oglethorpe County. So they handle Athens, Clark County, and Oglethorpe County. They're expanding. So it goes from what I knew of a small team in Morgan and what felt like a different team in Conyers. And that's not National's fault. That was my fault. National trying to make it a family. But you do work in different political areas, right? You can't see both my hands. You work in both in different political areas. But then now you start adding all these other things that are geographically diverse. You're in much larger areas. You have different interactions. It becomes a political climate. That's life. There can be good things to politics. I mean, there's definitely more room for advancement. There's definitely learning new ways to do things because Athens will absolutely work differently than Conyers does. And all of it works differently than Morgan County does because that's, when I was there, was a good old boy system. Very rural, very political, very shake the right hands kind of situation. So you got to be careful with the politics. You got to be careful with how you interact because I went in with the ideals of I do my job, it's a good day. That's only a tiny part of how life works. I lost my first job. I worked for Athens Regional. I lost my first job due to politics and my failure to recognize them and my resistance to work inside of them being politics. So that's something that plays in. This has been kind of a twofold episode today. First part of it was shifting gears, but that really does play into the other part of it. I was unable to shift any gears inside of politics because of my life and my burdens that I carried with me. What happened was, like I said, it burned me out. I moved to a couple different places, did a couple other different companies, and ultimately moved into an office atmosphere. And then now I'm a production specialist. Now I do media and entertainment, and I tell stories for a living, and I speak and I host and I have fun. And now I'm coming back to, I've dealt with a lot of my issues and I understand the bigger picture of how this works. So now I'm coming back in to teach, to share what I can see and what I know of the field to the next generation that's going out there. There was a story I said I was going to tell at the end of this. I forgot now. I got to refresh my beverage. Hold on. All of this plays in. All this plays in to each other. There's stress levels of how you handle the call. There's life at home. There's politics. There's how this stuff works. So save awards don't make you feel better. No, not getting recognition doesn't really make you feel worse, because I'd run thousands of calls where I got no recognition. I got a few calls where I got the card from the family saying thank you. That was always nice. This particular call with the kid, I got the Rescue Air or Emory Flight or whoever it was that came in, gave a big letter of follow-up and recognition to me and my partner, and I, to say, hey, you did a great job. Here's, you saved their life. Here's what you did. Thank you for that. Here's the follow-up on what happened. Here's what we did. They went in the surgery. This and that and the other. As much as they could tell in a letter, right? Because of HIPAA and those kind of things. But here's the outcome. That's the other thing about medicine. Most of the time, you won't know what happens unless they die right there in front of you and get pronounced. If it's ongoing, you might be able to follow up, you might not. But I can't. Holy crap! There's so many calls that I dealt with that were, here's what I did, and done. That's all I know is my little part. That's all I know. So we do have some recertifications coming up. And this is where I'm getting back into it. I'm going to be going to the paramedic recertification class coming up, and we're going to talk about that. We just had an EMT advanced orientation. So that went well last Monday. We've got another one coming up this coming Monday as well. So I hope that everybody who's in part of those classes, I hope you do well. But paramedic refresher. Now, here's something interesting, because this is how long I've been out of the field, right? Paramedic refresher day, it says 1. And I thought, oh, you're going to offer different days. And I was talking to Tom about getting my certifications back so I can officially teach in the class and officially be a part of what goes on. So I was talking to Tom about doing that. And he's like, yeah, it's going to be I was like, wait, what? Well, there's a little button here, people. It says read more. Oh, look at that. You got to go to all 6 days of the paramedic refresher course. I'm like, oh, that changes the story, man. And I'm still going to do it, because not only is it a stream of revenue for me, Tom will pay me to teach and possibly help me find other teaching gigs. I don't know. I'm just worried about what can I fix? What can I do right now? And I thought it'd be something of go through a class in a couple of days, pass the test, boom, I'm up and running. Something I'm going to be teaching by March. Nope. I've got to go through all 6 days of the recert. Now, that's true for all paramedics. If it's time for your refresher course, this is a great course to go through. It's going to be on Wednesdays for 6 weeks, as you can see here, February 15th through March 6th. You can get details on what it costs to go. It's a 48-hour course that meets the Georgia State and the National Registry requirements to be recertified, and you're good. Your refresher, as you can see, EMT refresher is coming up as well, and it says day 1, but it doesn't have a read more, so I don't know what the deal is with that. Because paramedics said day 1, this also says day 1, so I don't know if it takes more than 1 day to refresh your EMT course. Coming up on March 6th is ACLS class. I think I'm going to have to do that as well. And then we got PALS. No, I'm going to do the ACLS research. That's what I'm going to do, March 13th. So we got the actual class is 6th and 9th if you need those certifications. The recertifications are March 13th and 14th. And basically CPR, HCP, BLS. is March 15th coming up. So those are coming fast, everybody. It is coming fast. So get your stuff ready to go, and you can come and join us. And I like